Hello and welcome. Today we are working on a 2008 Chrysler Town & Country, and here are my symptoms. So when driving, these lights keep coming up, and first guess is it's the ABS sensor, which is located in the wheel hub area. So the goal is to replace both front ones and see if that fixes my issue. Now, if it doesn't fix my issue, I will continue to diagnose and see what it could be. But at least you guys will see how to replace the wheel hub and bearing on this minivan, because bearings go out pretty darn commonly, and the job is actually not very difficult, although it takes a little bit of time to do, and you have to take apart quite a few things to get to the whole assembly. And first thing first, you want to set up the minivan for this type of job. So you'll need jack stands, you'll need a jack. With the wheels still on the ground, I usually break loose the lug nuts and then I lift it up where I have clearance at the bottom. I use the 17mm wrench that looks like that. Now that the tire is up, we're going to remove it. Here are the tools I will be using. This is a 32mm socket, which is gonna go right here. And as you can see, this is really, dry and kind of rusted, so I will spray W40 on that right away just so that it could start working. This is a 21mm, which will go on the brake pad housing. And then this is a 13mm, which will go back here so we could take off this cover and get the brake pads out. And then I use a hollow pipe that acts as a breaker bar, so I don't have to strain myself removing these harder bolts. Let's begin. I'm going to be starting with the brake pad housing. We have two of them. There's the first one. And the second one. There we go. Move these brake pads. Set this one here and this one on top. Now we're working on this bolt and then this one at the bottom. And here's where I will need my breaker bar. Next, we get to take the rotor off. There we go. That didn't require a lot of effort. Oh yeah. This one is a hard one. There we go. Now we have to take 4 bolts out. So here's one of them. Here's the second one. And then there's 2 below. Apologize. Let's see, where can I get some decent light? But basically, one is here, one is below, and then there's two more on this side. So here's the first one, and then the one right under it. You can't really get in there with a socket, so I'll be using a wrench with one of these, which essentially acts as a socket, and it's a 15mm. And once you kind of break it loose a little bit, you could do the rest by hand. Next, we're going to remove this dust shield because we have electrical connections behind it. There's two 10mm bolts here holding it in place. I apologize, there's a third one that I did not see. So there's three 10mm bolts that we need to remove. There we go, could set that aside. Now the goal is to separate the wheel hub from this knuckle, and I did spray PB Blaster again. PB Blaster WD-40, same deal, so I'm gonna let it kind of cake away a little bit, and then we will try to break it loose, because at 120,000 miles of driving, everything is kind of caked on. We are making progress, starting to see a gap right here. So now I'm gonna be working up this sensor right here, and I'll need to disconnect it right here. $10mm bolt holding this right here. Okay, все тише. There's our old one. So here you have your wheel bearing, which if you have humming and whatnot, this is where it's coming from. So honestly, the only thing I struggled was taking this off because it's kind of a tight space and it sits up like this towards this frame piece right here, and you have to, with like a small screwdriver or something, pop this open, and then you basically slide it off. And then here it's like a double system, which again from the bottom you have to like clip it up, and then this red piece, if you guys will see it, pops back, and then you push on the black tab right in front of that red piece, and then you disconnect. So it's a really weird two-step process, but I got this off. I'm gonna clean up this area a little bit and start working on putting in the new one. Another side note, these bolts do not come out from the rear because they are being pushed up against the axle, and the washer that's on those bolts will prevent them from coming out, but as you guys can see, I'm able to take it out without fully removing those bolts. Now we're just going to use some sandpaper and just gently clean this up a little bit. Here's our new part, and I'm gonna undo the wiring like this, toss it over, and we could start sliding it in. And this part I'm not really worried about the axle, because once I put the nut on it, it will pull the axle all the way through. So what I just want to do is thread these rear bolts so I don't have to hold it. And I got 2 of them threaded with no issues, so I'm assuming the other 2 will also be fairly easy. And I see the 3rd one starting to poke through. All of this I'm doing by hand. And final one. And this one was the easiest one. There we go. Now that they are threaded, I am going to tighten them a little bit. Not 100%, but I'd say maybe 90-95%, because there's no reason to delay that. I got the new sensor connected, everything fed through, 10mm bolt put in. This is done, so now I just have to tighten the rear bolts all the way. Okay. Last thing to do is put the tire on, lug nuts, and you're done. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful. I appreciate you watching. If you did find it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing to this channel. I'll see you guys in another video. Have a blessed day.